Very good. Welcome everyone to the March 16th BayICT Tech Talk, and this is a special one. We've got a wonderful group of people from, or executives, I should say, from NextGen Cyber Talent. And the intent today is to introduce you to NextGen Cyber Talent's mentorship program. And I have with me Lucia Milica, who is serves as the Global Resident Chief Information Security Officer at Proofpoint, but she's here today in her capacity as a board member of the NextGen Talent Group. And she's gonna be my co-facilitator, well, mainly facilitator today, because she's got a panel of folks that she would like to introduce. And then she's going to tell us a little bit about the coming, it's very near future, but real soon, the NextGen Cyber Talent mentoring program. And we're hoping that you students here today will take note, spread the word. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to Lucia.
Thank you, Olivia. And hey, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. So as Olivia mentioned, I'm currently the Global Resident Chief Information Security Officer at Proofpoint. I have been in this space my entire adult life. I was going to say my entire life, but it's really started around 12 is when I started coding. Ever since I've got my first job, I've been in the tech field. I've ran everything from IT governance and strategy, from IT infrastructure, product security, corporate security, data privacy, everything from end to end when it comes to infrastructure and data protection. I have a JD, so the legal backgrounds really helped me dive a little bit more on the data privacy side. But it's never really where I want it to be. So for those of you that are not quite sure where you're going, try it out, give technology a chance. I really just wanted to be a prosecutor. I had no idea that's going to end up in the tech field for my entire career. I just kind of did coding to make my dad happy for a little while. And here I am 30 some years later in the tech field. I love it and I wouldn't go anywhere else. So I'm really, really thrilled today to be joined by some of the amazing mentors, but not only amazing mentors, they're really, truly cybersecurity leaders, very sought after in the industry. So I want to start out with just doing quick intros, and then we'll go through and jump into the mentorship program. So Stephen, if I can start with you, I know most of folks have heard you before, but just quick intros for those of you that have not met you previously.
And actually, I don't actually know who all has been at the previous talks I've had and who hasn't. So Steve Booth, I was formerly the Chief Security Officer at FireEye. I now am the Vice President of Product Management for Detection and Response over at Salesforce. I like doing all this kind of stuff because I want to connect to the people who are interested in making things better and like moving lives and careers forward with the people who want to help, right? So I put a text into the chat here. If you think any of your friends from class would benefit from this conversation, literally just send them a text message, just invite them over here. Because we get pretty widely varying attendance at these calls. Sometimes we'll get a couple of dozen, sometimes we'll get 100. So I never have figured out why, but thank you for joining and hopefully this is useful.
Thank you, Stephen. Krish, can I put you on the spot next?
Sure. Thanks, Lucia. Sorry, I'm not on video today. I can't explain the reason, but I'll tell you later. But I'm happy to be here. I'm the CISO at Gilead and also part of the NextGen Cyber Talent program as well.
Thank you, Krish. Umesh, how about yourself?
My name is Umesh. Thanks for inviting me here, Krish. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to learning from everybody, be part of the mentor program, and in turn be able to impart some findings, some interesting tidbits. I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you, Umesh. Peter, thank you for joining us. How about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Peter Nguyen. I'm glad to be here. So I am currently I'm responsible for security operations at Gilead Science. That includes managing all the security tools and as well as our SOC, which is our Security Operations Center, and our incident response. A little bit about my background. So I started school, college, traditional college, got the 4-year degree, but didn't really love what I was doing or the field I was in. So like a lot of you, I went through the community college programs, right? Just pretty much took up as many IT and technology classes I could, and then started my career in the IT field and never left. So I'm still here. Love the field. About 5 years ago, went into the security area, and again, just re-energized to learn this new field from the traditional IT. So glad to be here, and can offer whatever help I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Okay, and then for those of you, listening in, feel free to ask questions, interrupt us. We're here for you. So this is your time, and we want to make sure that we touch upon as much as you want to cover. So let me jump in and talk a little bit about the mentorship program at NextGen. And really the focus is, our objective is to bring you that clarity and expectation for both mentees and mentors. And having been a mentee myself throughout my career, as well as mentor, this is a really important partnership, and it really takes time to build it. And it's important that you really focus on building that partnership. But we really also want to be able to enable you to learn about what are the effective skills to support this partnership. So for example, from the mentee point of view, making sure that you're there to drive that relationship. And then from the mentor side, of course, providing the adequate coaching, and having that, bi-directional feedback, as well as really enable you to know how to leverage the program resources to support your learning journey. One is, for us, our mission is to provide you with the right framework to get you started, bringing you the right, partners, the right mentors, to support that mutual learning, and really also allowing you to expand your network of peer learners. Now, oops, I don't know why there you go. Now, what are some of the role expectations? If you have never, worked with a mentor before, it's important to really understand what to expect from both sides, right? To expect from you as well as from your mentor. And starting out with the mentors, really is, they're there for you to assist in identifying your goals, share their knowledge and experience, help coach you in providing feedback, and really making sure that they stay committed to the partnership and make that time investment to support you and enable you. Now, for you as a mentee, it's critical that you are the one driving that relationship. You have to focus on identifying and setting your own developmental goals, right? You have to think through. The mentors are there to help coach you, but you also have to be accountable. Right? When you think through who some of those mentors are, they are extremely sought after cybersecurity leaders in the industry. They're extremely busy. They're making time for you. You have to be able to complete your agreed upon assignments. You have to be able to be accountable for whatever it was set previously. You need to be able to be prepared, et cetera, and really drive that partnership between the two of you. And of course, we can't forget the support system, right? As a mentee and getting through the education program, your supervisor or parent are there as your support system to help really enable your developmental goals moving forward. Now, one of the things that oftentimes folks are not quite sure what really to expect from a mentor, and mentors come in different they can play different roles, different hats at different times, depending on the mentee's needs at different times. So as you can see here, right, you can have an advisor. Sorry about that. Oops. apologies. You can have the mentor that's an advisor. You can have a mentor that's, that's there as a coach, right? So if you're thinking through an advisor, it's, that person acts as a sounding board and it really provides that input based on their experience, versus a coach, right? They spend more time really thinking through the, employing active listening and inquiries and asking you questions, really expanding the overall awareness, giving you specific feedback on different interactions. The mentor can also play the role of a broker, or that of a facilitator, like you saying that, hey, I need help, perhaps on maybe doing introductions with someone, or do you know anybody in this space that I can maybe do an informational interview about? What would that role entail, right? So that's an example of a broker type role. Of course, there are also a firmer, clarifier, guide. I won't go through every single one of them. The goal of this is to really allow you to think through, what are the expectations? What are you looking for getting out of this? If your goal is, well, just tell me what to do, or hey, just can you just push my my resume and make a reference? Well, that's not going to be as simple, right? You have to think through, what are the expectations? What do you want to get out of it? But it's absolutely critical that that is driven by you, thinking through your own developmental goals. And then as mentors, we are here to help coach you. So I'm going to pause here and first see if any of my fellow mentors have anything else to add. Krish, Stephen, Peter?
Yeah, so thanks, Lucia. I think from my perspective, right, mentoring is actually it's a kind of a two-way mechanism, right? It's a reciprocal and a collaborative learning relationship between two individuals, where we share mutual responsibility and accountability, and to help the mentee to achieve their goals, right? As Lucia mentioned, that you taking the initiative and then say, you need to let us know as a mentee what your career aspirations are, where you want to be, and where you're struggling, right? In the previous calls that we have been, I think people said, hey, I'm totally in a non-IT industry, right? Or a domain that I've taken my courses on, and I want to get into cyber. Can I be successful in cyber? That's a great, and then we can put some goals around that, and we can actually help you there as well. So it's a platform, and we can make it our own. There will be some guardrails that will be provided by the program, but it could be a mutual relationship between two people. And then the other piece that I'll touch on is actually, it is a confidential and trusted relationship, right? You are going to share a lot of things between the mentor and mentee, because you need to build a connection, right? That stays within that relationship. Apart from this traditional, meaning, God forbid, we don't need to talk about those things. If there are some harassments and discriminations and those kind of things happens, those you don't need to keep it trustworthy. Meaning you don't need to keep it locked down. That you need to bring it down to NextGen administrators, and we'll deal with it. I hope nobody experiences that, but I always say that out loud so that we are all there, right? But it is a connection between two people, and it's a confidential relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I can add to that too, that I think that, when we talk about being committed to this partnership, it really means that you need to be focused on what are the learning goals, sharing the expectations of, for each other, be willing to discuss, both successes and failures, respect each other's time and schedule, preparing for meetings, et cetera. That all comes as part of, that commitment to the mentorship. I can share that I've had, numerous mentors throughout my career. Each individual mentorship partnership that I had was completely different than the other. I remember earlier on in my career, I think I shared that I really wanted to be a prosecutor, but I was still in IT. I started in IT as one of those, stopgaps, jumpstart until I was done with law school. And here I am 30 some years later. But I was still struggling with, what did I really want to go? Because I started falling in love with technology, but I still love law. And I just, in my mind, the two did not mix. And I remember having this one mentor, this my first mentor. She didn't help with anything. I just wanted the answer. Like, just tell me what I need to do. You're already, the expert. Instead, she handed me a book And it's like, I need you to go read this, do some soul searching, come back with questions later. And it was really thinking through, what made sense for me? What was I passionate about? What sort of personality I had that really sort of helped steer me towards cybersecurity, interestingly enough. And here's where I am today. And this is 20 some years ago when that happened. So it's amazing how some of those relationships end up just help influence where you ultimately end up being, or at least explore different areas that really enable you to say, yes, absolutely, I want to be here, or I definitely do not want to be there.
There's another interesting part about the whole mentor relationship is that it doesn't necessarily go where you think it would, right? So like think about what she was just saying about, I wanted the answer. I totally had the exact same thing on my side. I was like, I had a job I didn't want. I was like, well, how do I go become a nerd? And the answer was literally, I thought was, where do I go apply to get a job to be a nerd? And it was like, no, you got to go do this thing and get these certifications. And he was absolutely correct. And I got my first job like 3 months later and that kind of stuff. The point of this one though, is since you guys are already started down a path, you might start from saying like, all right, I got 3 different classes I could take and I only need one more this semester. So what would each one of these be used for, right? Later on, it becomes, okay, I'm looking for internships. What do you know about these different companies? When you start actually getting to the point of you're applying for jobs and you end up needing references, number one, it's nice to have had a long-term relationship with somebody in a mentor setup because, that person has some clue and we have connections, right? Just sort of the way it all goes. The investment in time from our side is just trying to help out. The investment in time from the mentee side, right? The person who gets mentored doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to know exactly what you want. You're just going directional, right? Like which one of these classes are more useful, or what's the difference between these 2 job position names or whatever. It's nice to have somebody who's been there, because even if we don't necessarily have the answer, we probably know somebody who does, right? It's nice to have somebody who's been there, I guess.
Yeah, just one additional point along the same lines. I started my career as in accounting, and I hated doing that day in and day out. And then I finally moved into IT, and from there, in slow progression, I was able to make it into security. It was a long journey, and there were ups and downs. It's not always all ups. There will be downs. We just need to be prepared for it and see how we do bounce back. And that is something that I can definitely help everyone here who wants to understand. I can definitely talk about my journey as well. And from mentorship is a huge responsibility on both sides. I think everybody has mentioned this, but me personally, I've had a few mentors throughout the career, and they have helped me quite a bit to understand who I am. What is my burning passion? What is it that I want to do for a living? Right? You don't want to get stuck in a career and then find out that this is not what you want. I did that before. So now I like doing what I'm doing today. So it's absolutely important that you enjoy doing what you're doing rather than doing something you don't like and then trying to change your career later.
Yeah, I will add that at the same token, it's important just raise your hand. If something looks interesting to you or something sounds appealing and you're curious and wonder, what is it like to be in that role? 1, raise your hand if you can help. But 2, don't be afraid to ask for, what's a day in a life? What does that mean? So, I'll give you a quick example. I was talking about how I always wanted to be a prosecutor after being in tech for so long. I finally made it to law school. And I realized that obviously I was not going to be a prosecutor. So now I want to take advantage of technology. So I thought I can be an IP attorney. I can do patent law. I did 3 informational interviews with 3 patent law attorneys. And by the end of it, my answer was absolutely not. I will hate my life, if I was going to be a patent attorney, forget it. I'll stick with being a cybersecurity geek, and life is good. Little did I know that by the time I graduated from law school, I discovered this thing called data privacy and married cybersecurity and privacy into one. And obviously, I wouldn't go anywhere else today. I'm super passionate about it. But again, that's not where I wanted to be. There was just something I did until I was going to be a lawyer.
There's a question in the chat for Umesh asking, how did you figure out that you wanted to switch to IT?
How did I figure out? Well, actually, it was by accident that I came into IT. What happened was, as I mentioned, my career was in accounting. I was in an auditing firm, auditing a company for their financial books of accounting and all that. And then they had issues with their financial systems. So then I got involved in trying to be a business analyst, trying to make sure that the programmers understood what the accounting team was looking for, be that gap. And from that point on, I started learning everything about computers and started learning a little bit of programming, a little bit of everything. And then slowly but surely, I became into full-fledged IT. Speaking about the down moments, the down moments are always is what will make you think what you're doing and how you want to proceed or how you want to shape your career. So there was a point in time where the company was being shut down, and I had to figure out, okay, what is my next path forward? And it took me some effort to get into a different path, which is the security path. But I was ultimately able to get into security at that point. And with learnings and with certifications that I did, I was able to get to where I am today.
Maybe one of us should talk about the certification side of things, because I think those matter, right? Because if you're coming from the perspective of somebody who doesn't have certifications, the question has actually come up several times on this kind of call, because I'm interested in getting the mentor side. Like, how do you choose one that's useful? Because there's so many out there, like, right? How do you guys figure out which ones are interesting to you for someone you would hire, let alone one you would like what would you recommend to your nephew to go take, right? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think there are some basics in terms of security. Obviously, CISSP comes to my mind. So that being the first one, and CISA is another one. So things like that. There are several initial certifications that can show you what it takes to do that task, and then you can specialize on a specific area.
Peter, what about you? What do you think on the certification side of things?
Yeah, I'm. When you said there's so many out there, that hit a chord with me, right? So when I was earlier on and switching career, well, not even switching career, like just wrapping up a degree that, like Umesh, I didn't really enjoy, and trying to get into IT, there were so many of them, and then there's usually like 5, 6 tests or certification you get before you get the full one, right? And the Microsoft one and the Cisco one, etc. And I would take 1 or 2 of them, and I would pass the first few of them, but I couldn't kind of stay focused long enough, or I have so many different interests that I wanted to use the certification to learn about a technology, and then go to the next one and learn about the other technology as well. So that's, to me, how I use certification, just as a vehicle to knowledge, but also having to take the test kind of made me focus a little more versus just sort of, in and out, right? So that's the focus. Now, right now, it's the lucky enough to be in the security where really CISSP is the main one that most of us go after. You can get to the next version where you want to be like an auditor or a teaching professional or things like that. But that's my certification goal, was to it was a way for me to really learn the technology.
That's actually a really good point on the passing the certification test is sort of a good way to punctuate your learning, right? So like if you got to take several tests in order to get to the final endpoint off of there, that gives you milestones, right? Umesh, I thought it was funny that you said the word basic and CISSP in the same sentence. That was easily the worst exam I've ever taken in my entire life, although I got mine in 2005, so it was a little harder back then. But
I agree.
Yeah, I feel like the CISSP nowadays is kind of what, and to your point, it's not just basic, but it is broad enough to where, sort of sets the foundation across the board. But I feel this is kind of like what MCSE used to be 20 some years ago. So from my perspective, and Krish, I'm curious to hear your thoughts next on certification. But from my perspective, I feel throughout my career, so I've had the MCSE and IDLE and PMP and whatever early on in the career, they helped open doors. They kind of set that baseline foundational level of knowledge that's expected for a certain role. And when you're earlier in your career and your entryway into a particular field, those are helpful again to open doors. Now, if you've been into that space for a while and you have you have a lot of years of experience, you've been there. Now, my personal view, and I'm curious to hear other folks too, is that value of the certification diminishes over time, right? So I don't put as much value into a particular certification if you've been in the space for 10 years as I do if you haven't been in the space for more than a year or two, just trying to get in. And having that establishes that level of a knowledge that's expected for the role. Chris, what are your thoughts?
No, definitely, Lucia. I think for me that, I have a different school of thought in general, and I've tried this, and I'll explain what it means, right? So for me, I've gone to, back in the day, I wanted to learn typing, right? So I've gone to typewriting classes, and how, I'm talking about old days, the typewriter, and I learned how to type, but I never went for the exam because my purpose was to learn, and I got it, and I don't need to prove to somebody that I passed, right? That was one. And CISSP, I went through the boot camp, but I never took the certification, right? Unless I've been forced to a certain level to say certification is a mandatory thing for me to get into something, right? So what happened is, like, after I got into cybersecurity and working as a cybersecurity professional, and then I reached the point that, hey, if you need to be breaking into a management chain, then they tend to look for certain type of certification. It depends on the organization. That's when I said, okay, I'm going to go take a certification, and I did CISM, right? And just for the sake of putting that into my armor, saying that, oh, I do have certifications, right? So sometimes these certifications, I think, you need to really use it for what the purpose that you're after. There could be some introductory certifications that you can learn, like as Peter and Umesh mentioned, that I want to know about the space, so you can take that. And then after that, you want to grow into it, so you can learn and then get for jobs higher than in that, so that then you can go for some certifications. Even in terms of privacy, right? I did a CIPP IT and CIPP US, but I'm not a lawyer, and I'm never going to be a lawyer. But I want to know what goes in lawyer's mind, right? So just to get that, I've done certifications in that context, right? While I'm here, I'm talking, I also wanted to share one example. I know there was a question on for Umesh, like, why did you get into IT? I'm going to share this one example. There is a training called Enneagram, there is an app on iPhone as well called Know Your Type. So this has been offered by the company that I was part of. And, there are a lot of folks who will come into the group, and then they'll say, read through this description and tell me what your type is, right? And what you think your type is, and go sit in that group. So it goes from a type from 1 through 9. I initially read it, and I thought, I'm going to be type 7. 7 is type of, people don't have kind of a focus. They jump on a lot of things because, I went to a lot of the certifications and never went for the exam, right? Reading the description, I thought probably I'm a type 7. I went and sat in the group for a few minutes, and I saw people talking. And then when you're describing to people, then I realized that this is not the set of folks that it sounds like me. So I put my hand up, and I told the person saying, I think I'm sitting in the wrong table. I think I'm not part of this group. And I apologize to the group as well, saying that, hey, I'm really trying to discover myself. I don't think I'm part of this group. They said, no, no worries, Krish. I think you can go and talk to the instructor. So I talked to the instructor. Then I said, probably I'm type 4. Type 4 is like very sensitive and all of that, right? I went down there and I sat there, and then I immediately realized I'm also not part of that, because people are talking about I cry too easy and a lot of different things. I'm not putting down anybody, right? Then I said, like, sorry, I think I made one more mistake. I don't think I'm part of this group as well. And then I said, I'm type 9. Type 9 is actually harmony, keeping everybody happy. As soon as I went down and sat in that group, I felt like home. This is it. And then I was so happy, and I said, this is my group of people that I'm part of this type, right? So it's like, if you get a feeling on when you do certain jobs, you may, it's paying money, it's giving you salary, but you won't like it for too long. That's why the accounting job for Umesh may not have been interesting, because after some time it gets boring, right? Then once you get into cyber, you start enjoying it. Then you feel like, oh, I'm at home. There is a purpose, and that I know that I'm here to protect the company. You kind of get that feeling. I think that's when you say that, okay, this is the job that I want to be in. Just a context, hopefully that helps if you're thinking about which job you should apply for.
That's actually really big. That whole idea of basically all of us, we all say we love what we do, right? So I find that's probably one of the best benefits ever, is that I say that I have exactly the job I want. I just changed my job, so I literally had to quit a job I love to get a job I love, right? I mean, like that's a really good problem to have. There's a couple other questions in here just to do this one. There was one, Lucia, there was a question about what aspect about patent lawyer turned you off, and what did they ask you in those informational interviews?
Actually, I asked them. I was asking the patent attorney. So one thing that I in my mind, being a patent attorney, was I got a chance to work with technology and argue in court. Well, the reality of it is, spending time with each different attorneys, I found out that you literally have to go through very detailed engineering details and search the database to see, is there a similar type of conductor anywhere else that someone has applied for a patent for? So think of tax law, or think of taxes. I know the intricacies of tax law will make that equally boring. I don't know. I feel like tax law is probably more interesting than patent law, but it's trying to find the smallest little part of a connector for a physical device or anything else, and search endless databases to see, does that exist? Where do they exist? And then shepherdizing a particular patent through the process to actually get a patent. It was just way too dry for me. I realized that I am someone that's a bit more social, that having to spend 80 hours a week just locked up, just searching databases for particular patterns of technology. So for me personally, it was not quite as glamorous as I thought it was going to be. So I ran the other direction, and I'm glad I did.
Umesh, do you want to expand on what you typed in there about the business analyst, just for anybody that's not reading chat here?
Sure, yeah. So basically the role of business analyst is kind of an interesting role. You need to understand what the business is truly looking for in terms of the features, the functionality. So at that point in time, we were developing a accounting system which creates their profit and loss, the balance sheets, and the likes. And the programmers who developed it did not have an idea of how the dual entry system of bookkeeping would work. So I had to merge the two into one team and get that product out for people to use it. So the role of business analyst is kind of unique. So you understand technology a little bit, you understand the business a little bit, and then you're marrying the two together.
An interesting question in there, and how would clinical psychology and cybersecurity marry up? I'll give my answer, and this is probably one that different people have different answers on. Part of that, I would say that, in my opinion, most corporate security teams, we are in the business of changing behaviors, right? So what we do is we do cultural change. Now, granted, we do it from the nerd side of things, but how do you steer a company with 50,000 employees to not click on phishing email, for example, right? That is not about how many products can I buy from a company like Proofpoint. It's how do I end up being able to get human beings to change their behaviors at massive scale, right? So that would be one way. Another part of that one gets into, remember that all of these things are also tech jobs, and all tech jobs have leadership trains, right? And you have to be able to whether it's team lead or vice president, doesn't make any difference. You have to be able to manage people and help people through their careers, do performance management, all of the leadership style skills, as well as the management style skills, because those two are different. So there's an awful lot of that where the people connection is significantly more interesting than whether or not you know how to read a packet capture, right? The packet capture is a different part of a career than what you would use clinical psychology on. And I got to tell you, I had a woman at my my local coffee place. Literally, she made a ferocious cappuccino, and I came in wearing one of my 1,000 Cal shirts. And she's like, "Hey, go Bears! I got a Cal degree." And she asked me, "How can I use my geography degree to get a job in security?" And I was like, "You can't. Like, you're not going from geography to there. You can, however, say I'm the person that went back to school, and I'm the one that got the degree, and I'm the one that worked my butt off." And she now is literally a project coordinator at Facebook doing cyber programs. So there's an awful lot of ways of doing that one. It helps that cyber has about 1 million more jobs than human beings. So we tend to be more likely to think outside the box, so to speak. I'm interested, anybody else have other ways on the psychology to cyber thing?
Yeah,
So I do. Oh, go ahead, Krish.
Sorry, go ahead. You first, Lucia. Go for it.
What I was going to say, well, for me, working for Proofpoint, for those of you that don't know Proofpoint, we pride ourselves into being a people-centric security company. One thing that we've seen, and I'm sure everybody else will absolutely agree with me on, we've seen this shift, right? So traditionally, us as defenders, right, we look at the layers of defense, right? Thinking through the onion and how can we add more layers. Well, up until this wave the last 4 to 5 years, but it's definitely more apparent today, is that we always focused on that crunching the outside, chewing on the inside perimeter first point of view. Because we were under the impression when you have everything on-prem within your environment, you can protect it, so you don't have to be as strict on the internal controls. Well, with the shift to everything cloud, as well as now remote everywhere, people have slowly become that new layer of defense, and we have to start thinking through what attackers are fully exploiting what we do. So we have to think through, as security leaders, how can I add yet that layer of defense that traditionally has been the weakest link in cybersecurity, which is that human factor, and now strengthen that, because they are the first line of defense. They have become that new enterprise edge, and you have to think through, what are the right adaptive controls? What are the right things that I have to implement to mitigate my people risk? So I sort of equate that to people. But Krish, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm slightly go in a different direction. So I think for me that clinical psychology is in a way of preventing distress, right, and making sure people's well-being, right. As a security professionals, when you actually have every day morning things could go up and down, right? Your life could be stress, the up and down moments that Umesh was talking about, right? Especially if you're having an incident that's going on, people all look up to you to say, how are you actually orchestrating the team to make sure methodically thinking without getting panicking, right, people? So if you can actually use that kind of a skill set and be in cybersecurity, I think it can benefit a lot. It's a totally different angle, but I think if you have that mindset and how you can manage it, and then if you learn cybersecurity, I think you can apply that in a much better way.
So I have one other angle as well, right? When we are talking about clinical psychology and cybersecurity, nowadays machine learning is becoming very prevalent, and the data is it can be any amount of data that is coming in. You do need a lot of scientists to be able to create machine learning algorithms, and for that you need people from all different variety of lines. So that's a huge area that people are looking to skill up right now.
Thanks, Umesh.
What if I can shift gear and just talk about internship a little bit and trying to get some, a try before you buy type of thing, especially when you're looking at new careers. But one of the, I spoke earlier around, me going to a typical 4-year college and getting a degree and realizing I didn't want to do that was because of an internship, right? So a lot of time an internship sometimes it confirms that you want to be in that field, but a lot of time it confirms you don't want to be in a specific field, right? So I had an internship I was studying science in school, and I wanted to be or not wanted to be, but I was guided to be a pharmacist. So did an internship in a pharmacy and hated it, right? If you can count to 10, you can be a pharmacist. Any more than that, there's a machine that counts the pills for you, right? But anyway, just hated it. And then at that point, I think at the same time, I had like part-time jobs doing fixing computers and things like that, and just find that I really love that area. And then that's the path that I went down and never looked back. So if there's an opportunity for you to sign on and get an internship, right, at any size company, it doesn't have to be a big company, but any opportunity for you to get hands-on, I think it's a really good thing to do, even if it's a non-paid internship, right? Get you that experience, get you to experience what doing that job day in and day out is very valuable.
That's funny you said that about finding the job you love, because when I got into this whole thing, I was just trying to find a paycheck that I loved. I really did. My only experience that I started it was I built computers to play video games. So I was hoping to be able to just get paid more to do that one. Then I found out I thought the stuff was completely cool, and I sort of ran down the path from there,
Absolutely. What
about take that one step further? So we're here talking about mentorships, right? So the intern connection, connection to the whole mentor thing we're talking about here. It's not necessarily the straightest line to go from, hey, maybe I should have someone to talk to about where I might take my career for, like mentor, down to, okay, I got these two intern opportunities. Which one do I like, right? Being able to help narrow down, this is just sort of my viewpoint on it, being able to narrow down not which is the best internship. It's more a matter of which is the best internship for you, for your experiences, for your interests, right? Because I don't know about the rest of them here, I don't actually think there is a way to do the best. I mean, I got the things I like doing, but I assume that they're different than the things Chris likes doing, right? That part I find fascinating, because you get far enough down the career path, and I kind of know the things that I want to do, and I may or may not be able to get into them. It's not quite as exploratory and fun as it is when you're more starting out, which is why I'm actually wanting to do these. I love those sort of earlier career discussions. I think they're awesome, because you have options that I may not have,
Well, I think that's a great point, Stephen, because obviously to a point, right, being in that mentorship, partnership, oftentimes we are our own worst enemies, right? We get into our head in terms like, I want this, or I want that, or I'm not really sure. And there are things that, people that work with us and consult and listen to us, talk through different ideas, etc. They can, based on their experience, they can pick certain things that are exciting to you, or certain things that you may hate, etc. So from an outsider, you almost get a different view into what potentially could be great for you. So which is why I think that advisor coaching partnership is so impactful and so meaningful.
Yeah, and I think for me, the mentoring program and the mentor relationship that we have, I think it goes on for sometimes you get a mentoring program given by the organization for a 1-year program or 2-year program, right? And then after that, the program ends, but the relationship doesn't, right? I may have moved on jobs from one job to another, but if I still may be talking to the mentor which I got in my first job, right? Because it's a relationship. You have a trusted relationship that you built on. Say, hey, I'm going to go and do this presentation to the leadership. I do not know, right, how to present this or my thoughts put together. So we can definitely bounce ideas off of. Sometimes you may not be able to share those questions or that you can ask within the company that you're working for, but the mentor could actually give you that, right? So it's a relationship that you should never lose.
They end up being pretty fun from our side too. Like there's two women that I've done mentoring with out at the Carnegie Mellon cyber program. And just out of the blue, one of them sent like, hey, I just finished my capstone project. Thought you might like to see it. I thought that was awesome. Like I was so flattered that she wanted to just send me a copy of the presentation she had done. And actually it was also interesting, right? But I would love it if our problem was that we had more people wanting a mentor than we had human beings signed up to do the mentoring yet, because we'll find more. There's no question we'll find more. So after you all leave here, I actually would appreciate it if you would talk to the other people in your classes if you thought this was useful.
Absolutely.
With that, we've got about 10 more minutes. Krish or Lucia, do you want to talk a little bit about the program itself and where it's at and how people would get involved?
Sure, Olivia, definitely. I'm going to share my screen. Let me bring up the site and then I'll share my screen for 1 second.
Perfect timing, Olivia. I was just about to say that.
So this is our NextGen website, and if people who wants to sign up as a mentor and mentee, you can click up on the sign up button, right? And then it'll load up a form like this. And then when you go down within this form, you should click on the mentorship program. And if you click on this and then submit it, that will register within the system in NextGen, right? So if you're a mentee, you can actually use that. But if you want to be a mentor, right, then there is a form under contact us, right? And you can just fill out this form and you can provide this saying, hey, I want to be a mentee. This is how I can help you with, right? Or so I want to be a mentor. So then if you fill out the form as a contact us, you can join as a mentor. And if you want to be a mentee, we need a little bit more details because we need to make sure we match you up with the right mentor, right? So those are the 2 sections you can apply. And then we are actually bringing in a tool, and the tool will actually help you with and it'll put you the guardrail as well. So this will be a mentoring tool where you actually build mentor and mentee. That you can schedule meetings, you can put notes. There will be a lot of different topics, right? That'll be assigned, like active listening as an example, right? Or strategy as an example. So you can pick up topics, and then there will be some structure around the topics and notes and everything else. So we are building the tool as well. And that tool will actually help you. When I say we are building the tool, we are actually procuring the tool. There are a lot of tools that's out there, and we are actually in the selection process right now. And we should have that ready for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Krish. I know we have about 7 minutes left, so we probably have time for one more question. If anybody has one burning question we want to answer before we wrap up. Nope.
Probably, with raise of hands, how many are after this call that you decided, okay, I want to be a mentee or a mentor? Any? I don't know if you can use the Zoom reactions and you can say yes. Definitely, I want to be help out in any way it's possible as a mentor. Thank you. I see.
I want to add that this is an incredible opportunity. I went halfway through my career before I had a mentor in my field. Often we're very fortunate to have mentors, maybe family members, or maybe is someone in another profession. And those are good too. I think always the presence of somebody supportive in your life is very good. But to have an opportunity to have someone of, executive and C-level as a mentor is an incredible opportunity for you also. As Steve was mentioning before in the chat, spread the word. This is an opportunity not to be missed. And I put the link to the website in chat. You guys can check it out later. Go get signed up if you're interested, so that when the program gets started, you're there and ready to go and waiting to be matched up. And if you're a mentor, I know that there's a couple of people that I've invited here. Please, you know, throw your hat in the ring there too. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, and one thing I will touch on is if you have already signed up for NextGen cohorts, right, like a training that you're done, in that case, just drop me and fill out the contact us form. That's enough because you're already a member. The system may not accept or something. It may, because we're still fixing that part of the section. So just fill the contact us form if you have already signed up for a course. Because I see Ron and others who are part of the current cohort. I see them on the Zoom. I recognize your name, so which is why I'm bringing this point.
You guys are automatic.
Absolutely.
There's a quick question in there of, do we have to be doing the trainings to get a mentor? No, you don't. So the mentor, like honestly, you could even do the mentor discussion to find out whether or not you thought you needed the trainings. We do want to connect you into the NextGen setup though, because that's also how we bring in companies for internship opportunities and some other things that are coming up. So that's why we're running it all there. All right, looks like we're wrapping up here. Thank you all very much for joining us. And if there's anybody you can think of to add into this, please give them a link, forward the recording, etc.
Right. And I want to give special thanks to the NextGen team here and those that you invited. Really appreciate the work you're doing. And again, get signed up, get your names in as part of the NextGen program in general, because there are a lot of great things coming. So this is the way you get in. So again, thanks for being here. And this will be recorded. And if you want to check it out, those of you that came in a little late, to check out the beginning, it'll be on the BayICT website in a couple of days. Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.